we're hoping down the road to get a new church. Some of the problem with what we have been doing, and there are a lot of difficulties, but it has been fun generally, is that people want to go by the old paradigm, and they even want to go by the so-called traditional paradigm. And what has happened, there's emerged, as it were, a gap between some and perhaps me with regard to exactly what we want of a church. Do we want it to be just like, as we've said, the Renaissance churches, the typical Protestant churches, which we are not. We are not a Protestant church. I do not protest Rome, except doctrinally, in that they have error. But aside from that, we're not interested in what Rome does. We're interested in shutting Rome's doors, closing Rome down, and bringing those people out as grace believers. Now, we realize, according to prophecy, that's never going to happen. We will never have that effect on Rome, but we can save some out of its clutches. And one of the ways that we're going to do that is by keeping the beacon of grace, Pauline truth, his gospel, open here at Grace Fellowship Chapel, and hopefully out at a new place. Now, we've gone over and over these particular protocols for obtaining the new church. And here's what I've been finding out, that not only is the attention deficit syndrome alive and well in our schools and with our young people, it has spilled over into our church. We repeat and go over it, and we spell it out, and we say this, and nobody pays attention, and then they end up asking what are kind of dumb questions. If they'd have just been paying attention, they would know exactly where we've been. I quote the Bible, and it says, "These things were not done in a corner. These things were not done in secret." We've had meeting after meeting after meeting. We say, this is what we're going to do. We write them down. We type them out. We print them out. And still people don't understand. When we have a business meeting in our church, we are biblical. Well, it's the Bible that talks about congregation raising its hand, Acts chapter 14, in order to elect either an official or a course of action to take. When that happens, that is establishment. I should have had this printed out, but perhaps we'll just take the time. We have establishment reality. Now, why is that important? I mean, is establishment reality as important as the Bible? Well, in some ways it is. For example, if Mary had told Jesus Christ, supper's coming up, and you're not to eat the cookies beforehand, you can have one afterwards. Now, where in the Bible does it say, thou shalt not eat a cookie? Nowhere. But it does say, honor your father and mother, and it does say, obey those in authority over you. When Mary, the mother of Jesus, said, don't eat those cookies, she established a reality for him. When we have business meetings here, it is incumbent upon every member to pay attention, listen, learn what we're going to do. Because I have this one goes this direction and this one goes that direction. And then if I say, well, now, you know what? We had this in a meeting, people get their feelings hurt. Oh, well, because number one, they either did not attend the meeting and were left out because of their own fault, or two, they didn't pay attention when we had the meeting. Now, to avoid getting your feelings hurt from me because you don't pay attention or you don't attend, please listen up. This is important. We have created reality for you. And not to pay attention to what we're talking about right here, and to circumvent it and try to go a different way, and after we have a vote on it that this is the direction that we're going to take, and then to come back independently of the congregation and as a person say, outside of the meeting, say, well, let's do it this way. Let's change the terms agreed upon. Let's change the reality. And you think that you are arrogant enough and important enough to do that apart from the entire congregation. I'm telling you, you've fallen into the trap of the devil. We have open lines of communication. We say, anybody have any opinions? Please tell them now. And sometimes I've even gotten just a little bit short because we have talked this thing to death. There is nothing we haven't talked about that hasn't been understood, known, and voted on way back yonder. We've started on this thing 2 years ago. Okay? So it's important to understand that what I'm going to tell you is how we're going to do it. Or it's going to be over my dead body, or it's going to be over something. This is how we're going to proceed unless we have another business meeting and the entire congregation votes to go another way. How are we going to proceed? Number one, and we've already gotten this, just like we wrote it down, we're going to get the price of the house from the realtor. That's what we've done. It was $64,000. That's the first step in our obtaining a new building. And we're going to do it as clandestinely as we can without letting our neighbors know. Okay. Step number 2, we've already done that. We met with the realtor and got the estimated price of the church, about $165,000. And both prices, by the way, we praise the Lord for. We had no inkling they would be worth that much, but both of them told us property values have gone up. Now, the next thing we're going to do is get the price of an estimate. We met with actually the board and myself. We've met with about 5 or 6 different contractors. We've gotten bids from 3 of them. One was just a guesstimate, but we've gotten actual bids from 3 of them, and the third one is what we're working on now. The men we had here 2 Sunday nights ago, if we're going to build the church, those are the boys we're going to do it with. We've been to their headquarters. We've seen what they do. We believe they're the guys. We've seen their work. We've gone and so forth. But their original estimate did not include some of the things that we decided upon on the other bids, which we needed to update them on. And we also said, well, we don't need the steeple. We don't need this. We don't need the other. They're in the process of getting us an updated bid. Hopefully it'll be around $380,000. A drive-it front, and siding on the side, changing it to a metal roof. Okay, then what are we going to do once that comes in? And it should be in next week, hopefully. We're going to go to the bank and look at these properties, look at the bid, take the difference, and say, fellas, we need to borrow some money. And they're going to give us the monthly payment that our church needs to come up with to borrow that money. All right? Now, we haven't done anything yet by way of saying we're going to put a church out there aside from that house price, this church price, the price of their estimate. Now, how much is it going to cost us to borrow this amount of money? The difference between the property here and the amount we need there of the estimate. Once we do that, we're going to take 1 to 2 months as a test and just see if that kind of money comes in. I mean, if we need $1,500 more or $1,000 more, will this congregation come up with that in the month or 2 that we use as test months to see if our church can pay for it? We are not going to put that house on the market. We are not going to put this church on the market. We are not going to sign a contract. We are not going to get a loan until we first see if this church can meet the monthly expenditures of putting a new building on there. Now, we're going to take a step of faith, but we're also going to do it in accordance with reality. Banks don't deal on faith. They deal, how has your giving been? How many people do you have giving? How much have they given? What will they give? And so forth. That's what they deal on. You can talk all you want to about, well, we have faith in God, and they'll just look at you. We've been there and done that. You have to know reality, the bottom line. Once we ascertain that we can do it, then we sign the contract and get the loan. Once that happens, then and only then are we going to put up both properties under secret sale. Both realtors understand we're going to sell them together and close the deals at a certain point. Now, it is understood that if we indeed go and they're building it there, that they can then put a sign out front. They can then, if need be, sell the property separately. But up until that point, because we're going to keep that property and we're going to keep this property as a future ministry if that falls through. Now, you folks can leave this property and you can go back to your jobs, and so what? You know, it's as if though you never were here. With me, it's my livelihood. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to have a place to teach. And if the congregation says, well, Pastor, you're nuts, you're crazy, that's fine. But if the deal falls through, which of you are going to provide enough money to give me a place to teach and so forth, when we already have a place and we sold it out from under ourselves in an act of stupidity? We're not going to do that. And I hope everybody understands. It's only until we have these things here that we are then going to open the property up for sale in what's called a secret sale. Both realtors, and the board can witness this, both realtors said, that's fine. Both realtors said, no problemo. Both realtors said, we can do that, and we can do it so that we can coordinate the sale and their move and acquisition of this property with our move and acquisition of that property. It can be done through swing loans. It can be done through certain agreements. And that's the way we're going to do it. And that's the way we have been open and honest about all along, voted on. This, what I've just written to you, is our establishment reality. Now, unless the congregation wants to have a different business meeting, change these terms, go another direction, so we're all on the same page, this is how we're going to do it. Because I want to have Grace Fellowship Chapel, and I know the devil, and I know how deals fall through, and I know this neighborhood, and I know what can happen, and I've been there, I've done that, and I ain't going to do it again. Okay? All right, now let's look at a second thing here. I think that Paul teaches the local church should have expressions of worship, should have aspects where music is an important part and plays an important part in overall worship. But I think that the Apostle Paul teaches that a local church is basically a school. Where churches have gotten off is they don't believe in Paul anyway. Why would they then look at the Apostle Paul and say, well, you know, instead of having this churchy, religious type edifice, instead it should be a school. Now, based on those convictions, you know what I want to make our new church? I want to make it a school as much as we can, where there is teaching. Now, one of the things, one of the ways we can do that is by providing individual desks. This is one of the ways we could do it. And by the way, we've had other members to say that. Jackie Yancey, for one, voted on having a desk. There's a desk. And it can be put on a base just like this. And it can be made available for those who want a desk to write on. We could probably even put a hole there for a coffee cup if you wanted it. I'm not saying we have to do that, but we could, where you can have your Bible there, your notepad there, and if you wanted to take notes, we want to learn doctrine. Preaching to me is out. That is pablum, a pablum technique for unsaved people and for carnal people to try to get them right. I'm interested by way of our church in neither. Oh, Pastor, you're not interested in salvation of the soul. Yes, but that's outside the church. That's your job. Witness to people, get them saved, bring them in the church. They're saved when they get here. Okay? Oh, you're not interested in carnal people. Yes, I am. But carnal people need to get serious with the Word of God. We want serious students of the Bible. Other than that, let's just put on the dramas and the plays. I'll preach a little three-point ditty and give you an emotional poem at the end. Our hearts will be moved and stirred. We can all come forward, kneel at the altar, cry our way, grab the hold of the horns of the altar, and so forth. Now, if that's what you want to do, you're welcome to that. What I'm going to do is inculcate and saturate my human spirit with the maximum amount of accurate doctrine that I can. Only that way can you be victorious in the angelic conflict. Now, I'm not saying that we cannot have some of these other things. Yes, that's fine every now and then. But we need to start learning doctrine. And the thing is, people want preached at. People want entertained. People want their emotions moved and so forth. And here comes somebody that here are the cold hard facts. Well, I don't even feel like I've been to church. I want to tell you, you can go to the churches where you feel like you've been there and you really haven't been to church. Or you can go to a church that represents the Word of God accurately, learn it, and apply it to your life. And I guarantee you that's more beneficial for you in time and eternity than all the playtime that's going on in Christendom today. Okay? Secondly, we've had questions about our pews. And in almost every case, and I'm saying this very graciously, I'm trying to answer this as kindly as I can with regard to this. Pews are a thing of the past. In actuality, pews were never part of Pauline grace churches in the first century when he established them. What did he have? We had chairs. The thing is, we can change the paradigm and at least make our chairs comfortable with padding. There was a question about, well, what about families? As you can see, all of these chairs are connected close together. Stan and Clifford and I went to a church that these guys just built, and they had all chairs. And it was beautiful. It was a beautiful auditorium. They even had a screen and a projector. The thing they didn't have was they don't use it for doctrine. They use it for singing, the ditty courses, the 711 courses, and the like. But you'll note these kind of chairs have a rack underneath for hymn books. They can have book pouches behind it for either hymn books or to hold other books, that sort of thing. It doesn't show it here. But you look at this. Note the ceiling. Note the walls. There are no windows in this building, and yet there's seating capacity for thousands of people. Do you know whose church this is? Chuck Swindoll's old church. Now, here's a man who has a listening audience of millions now. He started off with thousands in a church just like this with no windows and no pews. And if you'll note up at the top here, there are 2 projectors mounted in the ceiling for, of course, I don't know if he used it for teaching or not, but it blends right into the ceiling. That was his church. He's not there anymore. But that's his church. The point that I'm saying is that the paradigm has shifted. We're going to use that new model, the paradigm means model, to bring our church into the 21st century for teaching doctrine. All right? Now, if we need to have, and this is a second church. This is not the first one that I showed you. This is a different church. Note, they're all chairs for thousands of people. Thousands. Surely both of these churches were concerned about families and kids and that sort of thing. And if it wasn't, how could they get so many people to come? But if we need to, we can get matching things like this. I'm not espousing any one color here or anything, but we can get things just like this here to match those chairs and put them in the back if need be for folks who would like that sort of thing. But you will notice that in both this church and this church that they do not have them. They're all chairs, and there are chairs where people can sit. They can sit right next to somebody if they so desire. But we can accommodate everybody if need be. Okay, so please understand. This is not something. Sometimes I think, well, it's just something that the pastor, he just thinks that he's just a little weird and goofy, and he just can't figure out what he wants to be. No, I figured it out, but I have to fight the world and sometimes people who want to go back to the old paradigm and model, and we want church. I want school. Now you say there's no churches like that. You've not been to the places I've been. There are grace doctrinal churches that do exactly that. I've been in Texas. I've been in Missouri. I've been in North Carolina. I've been in northern Indiana, and 2 places in Texas, where that's exactly what they do. Whole families come to church, and they all have their backpacks on. And in their backpacks, even the wee little ones there. Now, sometimes the wee little ones can't last through the entire teaching time, you see. But they come, they take their books and notebooks out, they open their Bibles with everybody else, and they have accommodation. Chet out there in Missouri has school desks. I think Ron down there in Texas has school desks. Others have accommodations just like I showed you here for this sort of thing. Lee Hamoki just told me of one in Ripley, West Virginia that he went to. It's the first time there. They bought a storefront, and you know what they do? They have long tables and chairs, and if people come for church, and they put their Bibles down and notebooks, and they begin the process of learning. They learn the Hebrew language. They learn the Greek language. They learn the tenses thereof. They learn why that's important to know those particular things. They know theology, biblical theology, systematic theology. They know all of this. While the other churches round about them are preaching their little ditties, meaningless ditties, these people are serious about studying the Word of God. That's the kind of a person that we are interested in reaching. Serious students of the Bible. I'm too old. I don't have enough time left to do all the playthings. We need to get down to work here. End times are upon us. Okay? Now, we talked about signs. I believe some have other pictures of the signs that we talked about. Here are just some examples. Others have them, and we can see them today if they've brought the pictures. But now, if you've got an idea for a sign, now is the time. You say, well, Pastor, why can't we wait till we put the building up? Because we can't wait. We've got to find out how much this building is going to cost, and you cannot run an electric conduit underneath the pavement once the pavement's down. We've got to do it beforehand to know where the sign is going to be and what kind of sign we're going to have. Okay, we could have something like this. All right? We could have something like these particular signs, where the logo is there, the name of the church, and you've got what's called a reader board. Okay? And they're lighted. By the way, the Seventh-day Adventist Church that's on the hill by where we live just got a new sign. Well, to me, it's kind of dinky and small, as you know. But we have access to 100 square feet. Now, as I mentioned, 100 square feet. Okay. I want to show something, all right? Simply because it is so hard to get us all on the same page that sometimes I ought to invest in the Maalox company so I do not get an ulcer. Because it's so hard to get people to understand where you're going. Now, I don't know everything. I don't claim to know everything. I'm not an expert, and I'm not trying to demand my way in everything. But we have messed around with this where people say, well, I think it's this way. Another one, I think it's that way. Another, okay, you know what I'm doing? If I've got to do it myself, I go to the expert and say, okay, look, I've got a meeting coming up. I need to know exactly what you are talking about with regard to signs. Let me, while we're on the subject of going to the expert and people getting their feelings hurt, okay? I had a question the other day about our fans. Now, we came in and it was kind of cold and all of us had sweatshirts on. And a person said, well, we had sweatshirts on, but you had the fans running. Okay, now we've been there and done that with business meetings, and this is several years ago. We've also tried to update. Why have a fan running in the middle of summer and in the middle of winter? Matter of fact, it was years ago when we put those fans in that Tom Peelman was the one who said, this is what you should be doing with those fans. All right, what was it? And by the way, we asked the people who put in the fans, we asked the people who put in the furnace air conditioning. I called 3 more people just to be sure that what I'm saying is truthful. In the summer, you switch the rotation of it and blow the cold air down on people to cool it. In the winter, you switch the rotation of it, and it rotates the warm air back down to the car, so that in the long run you save more money. In the long run, there is a more even temperature than not running the fans. And when I said this person was kind of put out, well, just giving my opinion and so forth. Oh, okay. I mean, what do you want me to do? I don't know what more to do. Because people get put out at me. It's like I have come and personally attacked them because they gave their opinion. And I said, well, now, we've already talked about this. Where are they? And if they're here, where are they? Where is their mind? Who are they listening to? We solve these things by going to the expert, giving out the information to everybody. If they're not here, I can't help it. They're supposed to be here. And if we tell it and you don't pay attention, I can't help it. Now, let's go back to the 100 square foot sign. One of these things is a square foot, 12 by 12 by 12 by 12, all right? And we seem to have a question about a 10 square foot board. Now, you can get 10 square feet by going three ways here. By going 50 times 2, so you have 2 foot here and 50 foot this way. As a sign, that won't work. You can have 20 by 5, it's 5 foot here and 20 feet this way. Or you can have, as we're showing here, 100 square feet. Now, probably this is not what we want to go, but to show you that 10 times 10, 10 squared, 10 times itself is 100 square feet. Going this way, we've got 10 rows of 10 square feet. This way, 10 square feet. That makes 100 square feet. If you can't figure it out, I'll number them for you. And that's what we were trying to do as the Four Stooges down here in attempting to get the 10 by 10. It wasn't our finest hour, I will admit. It wasn't the most vivid illustration, I will admit. But we were trying to give you an idea of what in the world a 10 by 10 sign is, which we have. Now, probably, to go back, we will probably want one of these kind of signs where you got 6 by or, that type of deal, of course. But you have to start someplace. And sometimes as I don't know whether it's the authority figure or I'm catching the pastor in an error and I'm going to set him straight, or there's another authority, doesn't know what they're talking about and so forth. Sometimes I feel the heat. It's like people get mad at me. This is not right, and so forth. What about graciousness? Open your mouth with kindness. And that sort of thing. That's what we need to have. If we're going to have a new church and people come in and we just growl at one another because, well, you don't know what you're talking about and I do, time is setting people straight, those people are going to catch on to that and go someplace else. We're going to have to watch our P's and Q's, testimony, and what have you. Okay. Now, here's just an idea. Oh, yeah, it's just an idea. I'm not, but it's the name of our church and a reader board and so forth. We've already got a logo. We can take the writing off of it if need be and just have the logo itself. For example, like this one here in the corner, this one up here. You can have the logo on it itself. Or you can have something like this, which is what I just showed you, where you can have the name of the church and so forth. But these are signs that we need to start working on now, and we will, as people bring pictures and ideas and the like. Okay, one more thing. We're going to watch our time here. Just a reminder, it's we don't believe in Grace Age tithing as a mandate, but we do believe it as a principle. Anyway, where am I? Okay, there's another thing we're going to have to deal with at the new church, and it's called nesting, church nesting. Now, you know where I'm going, and I'm not saying that all nesting is necessarily wrong. After all, the birds do it. That's their home. But we have a tendency to gravitate toward one place, and that's fine. But you have to understand, when a new person comes in, they're not going to know that that's your place. Unless, of course, you have it marked. You got your footstool there, your Bible there, your writing board there, your shawl there, your long johns there, and everything. You know, now they're gonna, because the first thing. Now, Lucille had a guest, and she came in and sat down there right beside her, and she said, "Oh, am I in somebody's place?" That's the con. The con is the negative aspect is, I don't feel welcome. I've taken up somebody's space, and I'm a newcomer. I don't know where to go. So we're going to have to be conscious of this sort of thing. I remember the time when Roger and Linda Lawson came in there, sitting where Doc was, or no, right back there where the Whitingers usually sit. And of course, they didn't know from nothing that that's where they usually sit. And Jacob got, who is, I know he's bigger than I am, but I'm going to, David and Goliath here. I'm going to put a stone right in his forehead and he's going to fall down. He is in my seat. And I'm going to reclaim my territory. It is marked, it is defined. I've got the title deed to it. If we're going to have a new church, we must be conscious of nesting. Even with regard to, and here's what we do. And again, please understand, this is not a rebuke. This is a consideration for all of us. I tend to do it when we come in and we have something for somebody, a gift, a note. What do we tend to do? Before they get here, we tend to go to where they nest and put it down. Okay, that's exactly what we do. With the music, we tend to go to here's where this one sits, and we put music down right there. The problem with these sorts of things is newcomers come in, I can't sit there. Now, we're just going to have to be conscious of these sorts of things as we begin thinking of a new church. Our only hope of survival is to win people to Christ outside and bring them in. our only hope of survival is to lead people into the ministry outside and bring them in, or the people who do come in our doors to this business of feeling, to make them feel welcome. Our main objective is not to make them feel anything in one sense, but in another sense, it is our job that's what Christian hospitality is. Natural man, carnal man, spiritual man, we're here at Church Family, and we'd like for you to join us, getting saved, getting right with God, and studying with us as a serious student. And so, therefore, there is an open arm policy. There is a warm-hearted extension of the right hand of fellowship. There is, we're glad you're here type deal. And sometimes that's lacking in some of our members. Just simply because we seem to be standoffish and well, I don't want to get involved, and that's not my responsibility, and it is everyone's responsibility to be conscious of the other guy and bringing them in and welcoming them in the name of Christ. Okay. One of the next things we've got to do is I put in this graphic at the last, and I included this guy. But this guy here looks just a little bit frightened, doesn't know what to do as he's looking at this other guy. And it's because there has got to be a personal testimony. And perhaps this guy has been invited, knows this guy and the like, but what he does on the job, what he does, in the family, what he does at other places, this guy knows. And at one time he's in church and he's given a glowing testimony, and the other time he's not, and he doesn't live for the Lord. Okay, we're going to have to be conscious. Really conscious from here on out. Once we assume that burden, we should anyway. Once we assume that burden of who is first in my life? Why am I here? What am I doing? What is my purpose? What drives me toward the goal, and what is that goal? Part of that goal is to have a personal testimony to another person that is unquestionable. Now, it doesn't mean sinlessly perfect, but one whereby you can minister to that person, giving them Paul's gospel, giving them whatever they need, and inviting them to come to our church to study together. That's another thing. A part of that is helping them to understand what our church is all about. I don't know if we should. Our church is different. Well, perhaps that's better than our church is weird. But we don't do things like other churches. What do you mean? Well, we actually study the Bible. Think of that, a church that actually puts the emphasis on studying the Word of God. In an era where there's a church on every corner, that's still a rarity. You know that? Because they've got everything else going but an emphasis on accurate, dispensational, categorical Bible study. And so therefore, we must indeed watch our spiritual life, because as Paul says in 2 Corinthians 3, we are the epistles of Christ, known and read of all men. Okay, our time is just about up. I do have a few minutes here. Let's break into this next category, and then we'll complete it in the next hour. Okay, y'all got your steel-toed shoes on? How about your hard hats? You're all sitting down. Ta-da! Fall festival issues. I think we should address this because a lot of times folks don't seem to get it. And with just a couple of minutes, this is where we're going to start next time, but I'm going to make some comments as a way of introducing it. Already, people, and I know this because my backside was dragged out of bed at 5 this morning and I had to walk. Diana isn't going to keep me healthy if it kills me. And so I was walking there, and as we were walking, we noticed 5 o'clock in the morning. Any other Sunday, do you suppose those people would be up that early to do anything? I doubt it, unless it was something related in other areas. But they were going to the Fall Festival to set up their booth on Sunday morning. Suppose they made it to church? Do you suppose church is really on the minds of people from today throughout the whole next week? Now, I'm not saying that the Fall Festival is illegal, but in some ways it can be immoral. Or I'm not saying that in some ways it's not moral. I mean, going down there and eating a pronto pup and an elephant ear and a Polish sausage and whatever else they got is not immoral, but it can be sinful. Now, that's what we're going to deal with here in just a little bit. First of all, we're going to note that I am not saying that the entirety of the community getting together and having fellowship like this is wrong. And that there are not other booths down there, both independent, civic-oriented, school-oriented, that sort of thing, that are not okay to purchase from. However, not all the booths are okay. And when a community wants God's blessing and a community does things to keep people out of church, how can we then ask God bless America, God bless Evansville? We don't have a very good track record. I mean, just a few weeks ago, didn't they have some type of walk? You know when it was? Sunday morning. And you know what they did to justify missing their own church? Had an ecumenical service with some of our political representatives who are in the ministry, spiritual giants that they are, and those from some other area churches, and we're all one big happy family. And to that I say bunk. That's nonsense. They should have had the walk on Saturday and had those people come to our church on Sunday and learn doctrine, learn the grace gospel. Then, if they were cured, they have the rest of their... And if they're not cured, it's still part of the judgment of God on humanity. It's still part of the curse for those who hold the truth in unrighteousness. May I suggest that everyone who was there on Sunday, missing our service, was holding the truth back in unrighteousness.